Guitar tone videos are everywhere on YouTube these days, with people promising the perfect tone for this or that style. While that's great for all the gearheads out there, I think one aspect that is constantly overlooked from a producer's perspective is that what you play should inform how you sound. As a brief example to illustrate what I mean, before we dive a little deeper into this topic, here's a track I was working on a few weeks ago. It has a poppy 1975-ish sound during the verse, while the chorus is much heavier in contrast. I've got these funky offbeat guitars playing partial chords on the high strings. Because of what I was playing and how I was playing it, I went for a cleaner, less distorted tone to highlight the percussive nature of the part. But since the chorus has a distinctly heavier sound, if I just stuck with the same tone throughout, I feel like it wouldn't have quite fit with the verse guitars. That is, in a nutshell, the idea I want to talk about. I often get asked, how do you make a tone for punk, or whatever genre it might be? But I think that's often the wrong way to approach tone. Of course, there are distinct differences in sounds used from one genre to another, but just as often, the playing styles are drastically different too, and I think both are equally important for shaping your tone choice. Instead of asking yourself, how do I make a punk sounding tone, ask what tone would suit this part I've just written. In the first scenario, you're kind of reducing genres down to one or two generic sounds, and if you actually listen from band to band, the tones they use can be drastically different, even within the same genre. This is why, whether consciously or not, what these bands are playing will often inform the sound that best suits the material. In the Propaganda song, they're using much more complex chords, especially with the picked arpeggios, so to help that cut through and give the chords more clarity, the guitars aren't all that heavily distorted. That's in contrast to the Pennywise song, where it's mainly power chords being palm muted at a rapid pace. The simpler chords in that instance sound much better with the heavier layer of distortion than they might have with a similar tone to the Propaganda song. It's those small details in the playing that I think are worth considering before you settle on a tone. Sometimes you may even want to adjust things section by section. For instance, because of the sound palm muting producers, I often like to use separate tones specifically for those tracks. I don't personally like high gain guitars with that slightly fizzy quality, so instead I might keep the exact same tone but roll back the gain on any palm muted sections. That way the palm mutes sound cleaner but also heavier because they're less saturated, and then any part playing open chords I can revert back to the higher gain setting. Another similar example I've highlighted before is with J-rock bands. Because of the reliance on more complex chord voicings, which are often favoured in that scene, you'll notice they tend to go for cleaner, brighter sounding tones, often favouring single coil pickups and other gear that complement that sound. It's much easier to hear all the details of those chords clearly in a mix when using a tone like this. Than it might be with some kind of high gain tone you typically associate with metal. Now I do want to stress I'm not saying you can't play these styles with different tones, or that there's some strict set of rules you need to follow from one genre to the next. That's not the point. What I'm trying to highlight is that it's often helpful to think about your tone in the wider context of the song you're working on and what else is going on around it, instead of just defaulting to I need a metal tone for a metal song. Try to think about what it is you want to highlight in the part you've written, and then consider what type of sound will best achieve that. Like in my earlier example, I wanted the percussive quality of that part to shine through, and I feel that would have been lost if I'd used a more distorted tone. If I A/B the previous two tone examples in the full mix, you can really hear the difference they make. I'm sure everyone will have their own opinion on which they prefer, as we all have different tastes when it comes to guitar tones, and that's by no means a bad thing. If you'd like a deeper insight into what I believe are the 3 most important aspects of creating guitar tones, click this video next to find out.